back to the channel. I'm Rochelle, this is Brampton Gardener, and this is finally the final episode of my terrarium build. So this is where it all ended, but first we have to go back in time to see where it all started. What was the inspiration for this mini landscape? Several years ago, I was walking through Value Village, the local thrift store, and I found the most adorable little cottages. Now, these are the Lilliput Lane, and they were $3.99. This one, I believe, is called Smuggler's Cove, and look how much detail is on this adorable little house. It's almost a shame that you don't get to see the backs of them in the terrarium build, but look at this. This is the back of the next little house. The detail on these is just absolutely adorable. It just you just have to keep looking at them, and you can see $3.99, not a bad price at all. Really regretting not buying the rest of them. There was a whole set there. And then this lovely little Tudor cottage is the last one. So I had been trying to figure out what to do, how to display these three little houses for quite some time. And I decided they needed to go into a little terrarium. So I then went ahead and built a couple of bridges. These I used polymer clay, and I'm not gonna lie, this one here took me like an hour. The other one was a lot faster, but I sat and watched some YouTube videos and made these cute little bridges to go into the terrarium. Next up, we're going to talk about the supplies. So these are bits of the dried clay from my previous series on the other terrarium that I had made, where I had collected the clay from out in the wild and I let it dry out, and it turned into these really natural looking rocks. So these are going to be used into the terrarium. Most of the supplies that I have for the terrarium I either got from the backyard, like this clay that you'll see here in the planter that I'm going to be putting in. Now, in order to put this in as my backdrop, I've used the green tape to give me a nice clean line, which is really important because it's really hard to kind of clean that off. So I started with my tape, trying to see how I wanted it, readjusted it a few different times. Keep in mind, the more clay you put in, the more soil you put in, the more sand you put in, the heavier this thing is going to be. And this ended up a lot heavier than I had anticipated. So I couldn't actually put it on the shelf that the table I planned on it. It had to go onto a different container because it is really, really heavy. At some point, I think a lot of the moisture will come out of it, and that should lighten it up a bit. But again, there was a lot of weight to this. So as a true terrarium, you really need to make sure that you're putting in the proper amounts of clay. You got to put in your drainage layers and all of that. But since this is going to be a fake terrarium, there's nothing alive in this. Everything in it is preserved or dried. I didn't really have to pay attention to the rules so much. I was just going for aesthetics. Now, I played around with this for quite a while and made sure to try and keep my hands clean. I bought these different containers of sand, so colored sand. There were two different shades of red, and then I had some white sand and some brown sand. I got those on sale. They were 50% off of 25 cents a jar. So I went in a little too liberally, I will admit. I got to talking to my mom on the phone, and I got a little carried away. So in retrospect, I probably would not have gone up as high in the container. It would have given me more space for landscaping, but once I realized that, there was absolutely no going back. So I decided to help with some of the weight and to give me a nice solid base for the houses. So I went in with a bits of some styrofoam that I kind of cut into place. I played around with a lot of the different locations of things, and then I went in and I made sure another thing to lighten up the load was to use the actually empty jars as a base for the styrofoam. I have the base how I like it. I think that looks really nice in there. Those layers look good. I'm trying to figure out how I want to stack this up, and I was thinking since I don't need the soil per se for plants, I'm going to use some styrofoam as base, and that'll make it easier to like stab things in as well. Like it'll have a little bit more structure. I'm not sure about the jars. I think I'm going to see if I can't get them to go down a little bit farther. They feel a little too high, but I kind of like where this is going. So I'm thinking if I have a house here and a house here, and then the waterfall comes down, and then the other house kind of down below by the waterfall. That's what we're aiming for. So I'm going to throw on my audiobook and get back to it. All right, here we go. We are back, and more sand. And oh More sand? Oh yeah, why not? Why not use all the sand? Oh my gosh, I'm cringing watching how much sand I put in. Oh well, nothing I can do about it now. So then I went in and I put in a bunch of potting mix, just to kind of fill everything out and give me a little bit of a base, to kind of stick things in and to cover up the styrofoam. So next I came in with a layer of sand. Now this was kinetic sand that I found in the cupboard from when my daughter was really little. So like I said, most of the items in this were either thrifted, reused, repurposed, or super, super cheap. And oh yeah, more sand. And now we're to the exciting part. We get to play around with where to put the little houses. We are making progress. I got a little carried away talking to Mom and doing all these layers. So I had not planned on bringing the base up quite this high. It'll be a problem with having to stand and do it because I think probably would have been happier if I'd done it, you know, down here more, ended my layers. But if I try to take them out, I'm just going to destroy the whole thing. So we're not going to do that. We're just going to go with it. So I've made my waterfall here. I don't know how well you can see it, but I have a rock at the back. I know there's a glare from the light. And then I have a few rocks kind of placed along there. And then I've made like an indent into the center part, and I put some sand in there. And now I'm going to try and I'm going to fill the bottom part with some hot glue. And we're going to see how that works. And then I will probably, once that sets and dries a bit, I'll probably add some paint to it to make it look. And then we'll see if we can't drizzle some down on the rocks as well. But I think I need to make that, actually I gotta make the riverbed. I gotta make the riverbed first before I start just putting glue everywhere. And actually, you know what? I am gonna do a little bit of the hot glue, and then I'll put some of that on just because it's gonna hold it. It's gonna hold it in place. So we're going in. Okay, now I'm gonna go in with a little bit of the to make the riverbed, and then I'll go over it again with the hot glue to. But it looks like water. And now I'm going to need to come in with some little tiny rocks kind of along the edge of the, and then I have it on the waterfall area, the river waterfall section. So now I'm going to go in with a little bit of paint. Tray here, I'm just going to kind of mix some colors on. Okay, so now we have some like greeny blue water, but keep in mind once that dries I'm going to go over it again with the probably the hot glue, and then we're going to build up the sides of the brick, and then so we still have ways to go. Don't panic. Okay, so I'm going to use some of this around down here in the. And look, we have a waterfall. Very exciting. I'm actually really happy with how it turned out. It went a lot faster than I thought it would. And we're finally at the point where we can start putting in some moss. So this is some preserved moss. I had a small collection of moss that I've been gathering kind of anytime I see it at the thrift stores. I did get a little bit from the dollar store. I think I had some, and I just started, you know, kind of shoving it into the clay that was in there to hold it in. And then I added in the toothpicks to just kind of hold it and keep it where I wanted it, because it was kind of tricky to push into the clay. The whole thing was very awkward, standing up, and you know, I kept trying to move it around so that you could see what I was doing as best as I could. I apologize for the reflections and some of the angles, but sometimes when you're in the groove and you're kind of in that creative mind and process, then, you know, you don't really want to, you just can't break the zone that you're in, right? To double check that everything's, you know, filming and all of that. So I do apologize about the glare, but I mean, the light's up above. There's not really much I can do about it. Then I went in with some greenery. So I had some greenery. Some of it is from the dollar store. Some of it was from my own garden. I had a few dried items that I put in there. And I have to say, I was really excited about the colored rainbow reindeer moss, sorry, is what it's called. And you'll see it in there. It's the little fluffs of pink. It came in 3 colors. It was pink, green and black, and it just really added a nice dimension, and it was really easy to work with and kind of tuck into little spots in between the rocks and all over to kind of give the whole feeling a really natural, um, yet very, very lush vibe. And then putting the houses back in. I can't even tell you how excited I was putting this together and seeing it take shape, because I have been planning this in my head for like 2 years now. I bought the houses 2 years ago. I bought the terrarium. Oh my gosh, I think the houses could have been 3 years ago. The original terrarium I did was in November, December of 2023. So last year I was planning on doing it and just never even got around to it, just because I couldn't quite figure out and decide how I wanted to do it and with the different plants. So honestly, deciding to go with all of the preserved moss and fake plants really is what allowed me to have the creative freedom to put it together and to get it to look how I wanted. So next up is the lake, and well, you'll see. Okay, so here we are. This is several weeks later, and I had this brilliant idea of just using some white glue for my my lake. And I put in some saran wrap, and I just poured a ton of Elmer's white glue in there. And it was a disaster. It took forever to dry, and it more evaporated than anything. It looks awful. So we're going to pull that out today and go back to the original plan of hot glue. So, and the color went kind of gross because I have a rock in there that apparently had some color on it. Okay, so this was a little base piece that we just practiced, and unfortunately, hot glue does not come off of the foil. And if I was just leaving it like this, I could, but I really want the lights to be able to shine up underneath of it. So what I did is I got a piece of parchment paper wet, and we're gonna try this again. Attempt number 3. Third time's the charm, right? Of the parchment, so that actually worked, unlike the foil. So still it looks, apparently I was a bit of a maniac with the glue gun. And I'm going to paint it. If you've stayed with me this far, the best part is yet to come. We have all the people, which are on toothpicks, and the bridge. Oh no, we just lost something. Hold on. Probably going to take a little bit of time to dry, but not as much as the other. It's just a small layer like that. There we go. Okay, so you could see how uneven it was before. Okay, so that's going to take a little bit of time to dry. Once that dries completely, it's probably going to take a few days. It could even take a week. I will be back with an actual video of the final reveal. But let me turn off the overhead lights real quick. Hold on. All right, so next time I see you, hopefully this thing is done and completed. So thank you so much for watching, and at least we don't have to worry about anything in this one dying. So make sure to hit like and subscribe so you can see what's coming up in my other mini landscape outdoors. And if you're in for actual gardening content and plants, I do have a lot of plants and gardening on the channel as well. So make sure to check out my other videos here and here if you want to see what's going on in the grow room. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.